What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Drew, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about UC Merced and their surge in applications by 16,000. And so before I dive into that, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, then as always, make sure you hit subscribe as well. So if you're not familiar with the UC system or UC Merced, you may or may not think that this is a good thing or a strange thing, and you're kind of wondering, well, what happened and why does it matter? So we have to go back to sort of the start with UC Merced. So they are the youngest institution in the UC system when they were established in 2005, and they've always kind of been struggling to grow since then. So currently, I would say they're at a pretty good level for a smaller school, around a little over 8,000 students that they're currently enrolling, or at least as of about 2 years ago. And they've had some challenges. So one, you're starting as a fresh school in the prestigious UC system. You're not located on a coast. You're not located in the mountains. You're kind of in a field near a smaller town. So what is the draw? And so what's interesting about that is that UC Merced is also an R1 research institution. And so they are among the top performing institutions when it comes to research. And so there are a lot of appealing things about it, but yet they're still struggling to grow. So what's going on and what's happening? So with this surge in applications in the context of what you now know, the credit really goes to Scott Haig, who is their Vice Chancellor of Enrollment Management. And so he made a few small changes, and he made one really big change that probably is attributed to this large increase. So when we look at the small changes, one of the things that he did is typically the announcements of when students are being admitted, or those admission letters, they go out in March. And so Scott Haig thought, why don't we push that to December? So we'll say December 18th, because it would be awesome if you're getting that admission letter right around the holidays. So you're going to see family and friends, you're going to be at gatherings, and you're going to be talking about, hey, I got into UC Merced, isn't that pretty cool? And so it's timely, at least in relation to spreading the word. And you're also knowing before a lot of other schools. And so another thing I forgot to add is UC Merced is typically seen as sort of a safety school when you look at that in the context of the UC system. And so you have a lot of students who are not really looking at that school. So I think by bumping up the admission announcements, you're getting kind of ahead of your competitors, at least giving you a slight advantage, at least in terms of students talking about you. Another thing they did is they moved up their financial aid packages to being delivered in February as opposed to March. So families are going to have a little bit of an earlier idea of what they're looking at in terms of the financial aid being offered to them. And they're also working on creating a parent portal that will have action steps that will help the parents guide their students through the enrollment process and kind of get an idea of what to expect with becoming a new student. They're also experimenting with direct admissions, and so they're looking at sort of creating pipelines with certain high schools where students would automatically be admitted into the institution and can just bypass the college process altogether. So those are the smaller changes. The big change comes here. So you had those admission letters go out on December 18th. On December 19th, what they did is they sent out a targeted communication to all students who applied to UC schools except UC Merced and said, hey, you know what? Why don't you give us a look too? And as a matter of fact, we want you to give us a look so bad that we're going to waive our $80 application fee. So just check us out. You never know what's going to happen. And so what they reported is that 18,000 students took advantage of that offer. And that's where they've seen that incredible surge. And so what they had also done, they did that to transfer students as well, and they saw about 1,200 new applications coming from that. So that's what we're looking at. That's the cool part, right? This is where we need to be cautious. Still optimistic, but still cautious in a sense that typically UC Merced yields about 7% of its admitted students. And so when we're talking about yield, it's essentially going through the process or the funnel, as we like to say, from applicant to admit and then ultimately to enrolled student. So what that means is 7% of students are admitted, but then those are the only ones who enroll. Let me back up. of the students who are admitted, 7% of that group are the ones who ultimately go on to enroll. And that's very low when you consider other schools like UCLA, where their yield or their conversion rate is what others would call it, is about 50%. And so this could go back to the school having a reputation of being a safety school, its location, it being small, it being new, but you really need to look at the benefits of that. And so some of the benefits are you don't have overcrowded classrooms, and being on a smaller campus, you're going to have faculty who are familiar with the students, and being an R1 institution, you're going to have research opportunities as a student, which you may not have at any of these other schools. And so I am really high on this story. I love this story. I think it's great for a number of reasons. And I know generally if you've watched a lot of my videos, I'm pretty positive, or I like a lot of what I'm talking about. But for this in particular, I think what's awesome is this strategy to get the applications is kind of part of that formula when it comes to enrollment management. And the big thing here is marketing, because when you are an institution of higher ed, if you're a college, if you're a university, you're in a sea of other colleges and universities. And when you look at UC Merced in particular, not only that, but you're also in the sea of the UC system. And so you have UCLA and all of these other schools that everyone is focused on except for you. So I think by sending out this email, this targeted campaign is drawing attention on you for students who would never consider that. And I think that's a very unique, I would call that a marketing perspective or a marketing strategy. And I think it's unique, and I think it's creative and innovative, because then you're at least hooking them. And so now that next step is we want you to come and enroll. So we need you to kind of look at our school and buy into what we offer. So those benefits that I had just mentioned, students need to start investigating that. And that's where the harder part comes in, because you may have students and families who feel like, I still want my child, or I still want to go to this larger school because it has a better reputation. And so I think this puts the spotlight on, you really need to look at why you're going to the institution that you want to go to. Why are you going there? Is it for the education? Is it for the research opportunities? Do you want to be in an overcrowded classroom? Is it just because they have a good football team? Are you looking at career preparation? Can this school help you find a career? And when you start asking those questions before committing to a school, it might change your list of actually what you're looking at and what you're considering. And UC Merced can offer a lot of those incredible things for students. And I know that initially the article that I had read, and I'll post it down in the description, they were talking about the first few classes that went through, and they said, we don't have athletics. We don't really have anywhere to stay at the time. There are no traditions. Like, it's just a school. And they're trying to work through that. Those are growing pains. That's going to happen when you're newer, and they are starting to add athletics. They're starting to build residence halls. They're starting to invest in their campus infrastructure. So the school is growing. The school is growing through enrollment. It's growing physically. It's making progress. And I think if you are a student right now and you may have received one of those emails, you need to give a hard look at UC Merced. And going back to the marketing perspective, I started looking at that school. I went to their website and I noticed they had a virtual tour that I started taking myself. And what's funny is that tour is powered by Appley, which used to be UVisit. And if you are a longtime viewer of this channel, you know that I did a video on how much I love UVisit and their virtual tours for students who can't physically get to those campuses. So I think the school has a lot to offer, and I'm going to continue to look into it myself. And so I really like what they did to at least hook their students. And then I think they have unique selling propositions in a sense that they are newer and they still have room for you to become part of their community and really benefit and come along for the ride as they grow into a more prestigious and reputable and long-standing institution. So like I said, I'll link to the article that I read. It may be behind a paywall. It may not. I'm not sure, because I hid it behind a paywall once, and then the second time I went to it, it was available. So we'll see. I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. And also let me know, did you ever receive an email like this for another institution, or was there something that caught your eye about a school that you weren't looking at and you went to go visit, or at least it drew your interest, whether or not you actually went there. And maybe you actually went to a school like UC Merced and you thought it was awesome or you thought it was terrible. Let me know. Let us all know down in the comments. And so with that, I appreciate it. Glad you could stop by. Make sure you hit that like button. And as always, I will catch you in the next one.